Welcome to another episode of the Balanced Growth Show. I'm your host, Dr. Travis Perry. Today we have Larry and Sue Pruett. They've been married for over 35 years and are parents of 5 adult children. They've been entrepreneurs for over 20 years, with the last 12 plus years being full-time. They're business and marriage coaches who help married entrepreneurs build the business of their dreams side by side. And here they are in studio with me, albeit virtually, side by side. I love it. Thank you guys both for being here and being so willing to share your knowledge and wisdom with our group.
Oh, thanks so much for having us. We really appreciate it, Dr. Perry.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, I'll let you guys tell your story. I know you're married 35 years, but you're helping couples now to build their business as married couples. Tell us, how'd you get here? What's your story? I'll let you guys decide who wants to tell that, or if it's me telling the story, then my wife likes to jump in, and it gets all fun and messy like that. But that's the beauty of marriage. So I'll turn it over to the two of you.
Yeah, that's normally how we do things. One of us will start and the other will just jump in. So
I'm color commentating.
that's right. Yes. And we could go all the way back and just say that we were born at very young ages.
Oh.
But seriously, our story goes all the way back to whenever I was a baby, all right, believe it or not. And I had one of those grandmas who is just a praying grandma. And from the time I was born, she was praying for Sue.
Mm-hmm.
She was praying for my future wife. And as you fast forward, and we met in college, but we realized at some point that Sue was born 9 months and 4 days after I was born. So Sue has been prayed for from conception. But we just know that the Lord brought us together, and along the way, as you mentioned, we've raised 5 kids together, it's been about 21 years ago that we sold our first thing online, and we kind of started that entrepreneurial journey. And you want to pick up the story from there?
Yeah, we really didn't think that we were entrepreneurs when we first got together. And but one of the things that we experienced from the time that we were dating really was there was so much discouragement aimed at us around marriage. People were warning us when we were engaged that we were going to be miserable once we got married. Once we got married and we were still happy, people were telling us we were going to be miserable once we'd been married for a year. And it just kept going for a while. And finally, people gave up because we were still happy after many years. But that just put a fire in us. The Lord used that to really put a fire in us to want to help other couples experience a good Christian marriage, like to understand what it could be like. And so that has always been at the heart of everything we have done. It's been something that we've done kind of on the side. We've done it in our church, teaching Sunday school classes. And in the last few years, the Lord has opened the door to let us be able to actually coach couples and help them to discover how to have a thriving marriage and business at the same time, because we know they can put pressures on each other, and that can become something that is a difficult thing to navigate. But that is really what has brought us to where we're at now, helping couples build the business of their dreams.
Side by
Oh,
side.
yes, side by side. Thank you.
Can't forget that.
Excellent. What would you say, to this topic of business pressure and, working together to make those dreams come true side by side? Talk to us a little about, not just, hey, this is a marriage, not that I would ever say a normal marriage, right? But you add business to the mix, and it adds additional pressure. It adds additional stress. There's offsets to it. There's hopeful freedom and financial gain and a lot of other things, but especially initially, there's always that perception of added stress. So talk to us a little bit about, what do you think the biggest issues are with married entrepreneurs?
I know that for us, in our experience, as we began to move into entrepreneurship, and as Larry came home from his day job, and then we were full-time entrepreneurs together, running a business together, one of the things that we really ran into was it was very difficult for me to figure out what is my role supposed to be as a business owner compared to what my role has been as a wife and mother for all this time, because we've been married for a long time before this. And so we had a relationship that was really well defined. We felt like we were following scripture's guide really clearly on roles at home and what we did there, and the place that we had in our marriage. But when it came to business things, we started kind of tripping over each other a little bit. And we realized I had some strengths that could contribute to the business in a way that I wasn't really expecting. And Larry really had to do a lot to kind of pull that out of me.
Yeah, for sure. And specifically, I think what you're referencing is managing people. Just one example
Mm-hmm.
is that at one point we had a warehouse with employees, and primarily our income stream has been e-commerce and coaching, and then it's led into what we're doing now. But so we had a team of people, and I've had a lot of experience in management over the years, and that's what my day job was, and I hated it. And I realized that for our business, we didn't necessarily have to. I didn't necessarily have to be the one doing that, and I realized that Sue has some strengths in that, just personality wise, and just practicality wise. And so at some point we sat down and just had that discussion about, like, this is just draining me. And I don't feel like I'm doing a very good job at it. And so, just kind of working through all that was super helpful for us. And we just realigned some of the roles within the business then.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that other married couples struggle with the same thing more or less, that there's some role, redefining? As you were saying, Sue, that as you're joining that business, there's also probably even some sound like maybe not power struggle, but probably of like, well, okay, now we're working together. Are we equal? Do you work for me? He started first and now I'm joining. Talk to us a little bit about the couples that you have coached and helped to work together, about some of those struggles there.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that becomes it can become a power struggle. I know for us it was that I don't know that we ever felt like we were fighting each other. We always talk about facing everything side by side. Like, you face your problem, and your problem is the thing to work on, not your spouse. And so we really wanted to have that tactic. And so as we have worked with other couples, they have, there's oftentimes that the figuring out your new role in the business is something that has to be dealt with really frankly and really forthrightly. And so, I mean, everything that you ever hear about keeping a marriage relationship good is going to feed into keeping your business relationship good. You have to have clear communication. You have to be honest about what you're thinking and feeling. You have to speak truth when you see, I think this is an issue and we need to take care of this, or we need to approach this a different way. And I know that one of the things that happened with us early on when Larry first came home was we had different expectations about what was going to happen. I had to approach him, and I remember, I had to really get his attention because he was kind of
Right.
oblivious to some things that were going on at the moment, not on purpose, and I knew that. But I just had to say to him. In fact, I think I used the phrase, "I'm about to break, and we need to make some changes." And so I think that that's something that we have helped other couples do, is facilitate important conversations so that they can confidently move forward in their own business and marriage, and know that we're going to be able to do this in a way that's healthy and successful for the business and for our marriage, and have both of them thrive.
And I think I would just add to that, it is almost universal with the couples that
Yeah.
that we work with. um, and those roles will change over time also. And as long as both parties are on board with that makes sense, and kind of the example we gave earlier. But not just the responsibility of having that, but also the authority of that role. And just making sure that, like, this is my lane, this and that is your lane. And there's going to be some crossover,
Mhm.
just because of how business and life is. But for the most part, within my realm of responsibility, I get to make those decisions, and we don't have to discuss those things. And obviously, on bigger decisions, we're going to discuss those things. We're not going to make any major finance decisions or something like
Mm-mm.
that individually. But there was an example not long ago as we were doing a transition. We were actually moving from one location to another, and there was, because we're e-commerce, we had a lot of products and such, and Sue was saying, and this was her realm, by the way, that she was asking me to kind of come in, and she was saying, what about this thing? Is it all right if I do this with it? And I was like, yeah, that's fine, And then she came back a second time, and I think it was maybe the third time. I just
Mm-hmm.
said, really, seriously, I trust you.
Yeah.
You don't have to come to me with these small decisions. And matter of fact, please don't. And I just wanted her to handle that and have the authority along with the responsibility there.
And I think one of the things that we teach that has, I think, been very helpful, we've gotten a lot of comments on this one, is when it comes to big decisions, we have decided to give each other, we both, with the way we say it is, we have a 51% vote, each of us do. And what that really boils down to is we each have veto power. And so if we're talking through a bigger decision, if either one of us is really uncomfortable with it, it's okay for you to exercise your veto power and say, I really don't think, most of the time I don't feel like we're supposed to be doing that yet or right now. And knowing that we both have that power to put a stop to anything that we're super uncomfortable with, I think has helped us in that risk-taking realm that you have to adopt if you're going to be an entrepreneur. I think it has helped us move forward in that a little bit easier as well, because we know just because we make this one decision now doesn't mean that we have to go down a whole road. At any point, we can, either one of us could put a stop to it if we get really uncomfortable with it. And so we have taken some really big kind of audacious steps in business that other people have commented they looked really scary, but we're thinking, yeah, but I can put a stop to it anytime I have to, or anytime I feel like I need to. And honestly, we don't exercise it very often. I think it's been exercised twice in the 21 years we've been married. So it's not something we use a lot. We don't use it as a battering ram.
Right.
I love that. That's so good. Veto power.
Yeah.
Most of what I'm hearing from you guys is, hey, couples tripping over each other. They're confused about maybe managing things together. There might be power struggles, conversations, communication, decision making. It seems like what I'm hearing is, if we lump this all together, is communication, right? A lot of this is communicating, decision making, all kind of all together. Would you say that is some of like is that the biggest problem that most of these couples are facing, or is there something even is equal or greater than that? Or talk to me about that.
I really think that probably is one of the biggest issues and one of the biggest factors. I mean, it's an issue. We see it in society today. People have a hard time talking to each other, honestly and frankly. And so helping couples learn to do that is super important, because we know if we can help facilitate that everything else will kind of blossom from that. And one of the things that we really work on is helping them develop a solid family mission statement. If they
Nice.
can develop a solid family mission statement, that sets a lot of boundaries in everything in their life. If they know what their purpose is as a family, and of course we work with couples who work together. So if they know what their purpose is as a family, every decision that comes before them can be filtered through that purpose, that mission statement, and it can help them very easily make a lot of decisions because it shows them what's out of bounds for them. And so a lot of things that come along can look really good, but if you know what your mission is, you know right away if it's out of bounds for you, and it's really easy to say, you know what, we're going to do something else. Say no
Yeah.
to that one.
Nice.
Yeah,
This is
and I
so
would,
good. Oh, let me just ask this, Larry. Let me jump in, and then I'd love to hear from you as well. You're mentioning family mission statement. Let's talk about your framework. Let's talk about how you now help them to overcome these communication, role and power struggles, decision issues. You talked a little bit about some techniques with veto and now mission statement. So let's walk through. Tell us what what your frameworks are. What are your 4 or 5, 6 points, or I'm not sure how many points you might have of each of these, and then you don't have to explain everything, all the details, but give us just some quick overview of that, and Larry, if you wanted to jump in on that, then we can jump into the frameworks.
Yeah, actually, that'll segue perfectly into that. We have what we call the 224 pathway that we walk our clients through, and so we came up with that framework name because of Genesis 2:24 that talks about having a one flesh kind of marriage. And so basically, we start with the two individuals, the husband and wife, and getting to know each other better. And there's we could go into a lot of that if you want, but those two individuals, and then with two insights. And one of those is clarity, one of those is connection. And that was kind of the point that I was making just a minute ago when we're talking about communication. Connection is really the important thing that a husband and a wife need, but communication is what is necessary for that. So that's why communication is so important, is because it leads to better connection for that couple. So you got the two individuals, the two insights, and that leads to 4 impacts that we teach and that we walk our couples through. And again, we can dig into that as far as you want, but that gives you the overarching framework that we take couples through.
Yeah, why don't you summarize each of those points, and either one of you are able to do that. Go ahead and give some, just a couple of points for each one of that 224. I love that, and I'm chuckling over here because social media takes these things and blows it out of proportion. I saw a really funny meme about about Adam, and it's like, hey, God, I'd like this out of a woman. He's like, well, that'll cost an arm and a leg. He's like, okay, fine. Then just give me someone that's going to help me through life. He's like, okay, that'll be your rib. And it's kind of like this idea of like, it's side by side, like literally side by side. And I know it's figurative. It's the Bible. Yeah. You have to understand this is figurative. However, this idea that God could use anything, that it would be side by side, shows equality, although different, shows equality, shows that we are not in front of or behind or greater or less than. It didn't come from the head or the feet. It didn't come from the back or the front. It was the rib, the side. So I really love how you guys have developed your framework, not just as a marketing thing, but as your framework, that because that is become leave man become one flesh, and leave husband or leave father and mother, right, and become one flesh, and that happens by becoming equal and being on that same page, which is what I'm all about. So I love this. So I'll let you guys talk a little bit more about the 224, and then maybe if you would, what's the most important concept that would say, out of that framework, what's the most important concept that couples really should focus on?
Yeah. So as we kind of picture this, we think about the couple walking down this pathway, and becoming side by side, or more side by side, even, because we're all on a journey, right? So we kind of think about that picturing and these kind of being steps along the way. And so in many ways, the first one is the most important one, and that is to have a clear margin and focus. So to know where you're going, to know what what your path is going to be, making sure that you are focused. I don't know how else to say that, but that's really what that first step is about. Then we've got casting a mission foundation, and that's kind of what you were talking about earlier with the family mission statement, and to have that set aside. So you've got we like the picture there of like the baseball field with the foul poles, and you can see that most of the balls are most of the stadium is out of bounds. It's a foul territory, right? And so that helps us to focus, help us to avoid the shiny object syndrome, and just jumping from thing to thing. And then we have one of our steps is confidently moving forward. And so making sure that we have systems in place. This could be budgeting. This could be
It's going to be your roles in the business.
roles in the
Who's
business.
going to do what, so that you know what is my area of authority, and therefore my area of control in the business. I couldn't put that word out of my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, just what's my area of control? What's my area? What are the areas that we need to, work with each other on? How do we, make plans for the business? And then with that mission statement, the business purpose statement is really going to flow out of that.
Right.
So you need to have a family mission statement, and then you're going to have a business purpose statement that's going to flow out of that, and that's going to direct how you grow your business and what you move forward in that realm. And then one of the huge ones, which I think an argument could be made that either the mission statement or this one could be the most important, but getting really connected as a family and as a couple, and knowing how to keep those relationships thriving at the same time that you're growing a business. Because as we talked about before, that business work can put pressure on family relationships, and not just with you as a couple, but if you have children in the home, it's going to affect those relationships as well. When we stepped into entrepreneurship, into full-time entrepreneurship, our youngest child was 6 or 7 years old,
7.
and our oldest was 18. And so we had many years of active parenting left. And so we were stepping into that at the same time that you're experiencing all of the, joy and challenges of parenting, and bringing the kids along with that. And so if you are really connected as a family, and if you're really connected as a couple, your business almost can't fail. But if it does, your marriage and family are going to remain intact, and that's going to be okay. So,
Yeah. And one of the things that we talk about is building a business that without regret, right?
yeah. Mhm.
So there's all these ways that, we can do all kinds of things to build a successful business. But whenever we come down to the end of our life, what kind of regrets are we going to have? We want to encourage people to build their business in the right way, and just to walk down that pathway, so that at the end, you're side by side as a couple, and you're building a successful business, but there's no regrets.
Yeah, it's great. I talk a lot about couples and being on the same page financially. This takes it a step further that you guys are discussing here, because if you're in business together, I call these couples couplepreneurs. They're in business together, but they're husband and wife. They're married at home, and then they're partners in business. There's all sorts of ways to set this up, as you guys have said. I think the important part is like knowing where are you, where are you in this process. It becomes a family business, which family businesses, quite honestly, have been very successful in the United States. They are some of the most successful businesses. They get a bad rap, but sometimes it's probably because of communication, roles, boundaries, all the things you guys have mentioned. So I think this is fantastic. I did ask you, earlier, but what do you think is the most important thing? I think you mentioned having a clear margin focus here of just knowing what is your focus. Why? Let you guys both maybe talk about this. Why is that the most important part of the framework?
So I think to start with, to think about the word focus, um, if I'm going one direction, Sue's going another direction, we're in trouble. Yeah, and we're in trouble as a couple. We're definitely in trouble as a business. So to keep that focus going, um, whenever we focus in on that one thing that we are choosing to work on at that moment, we just see greater progress. We see greater connection, and things just work out much better. And that word margin in there as well, in that is making sure that we've got boundaries in life, that again, that we are not doing this at the cost of our relationship or at the cost of our children. um, whenever we actually took the leap 12 plus years ago, it was not a great financial decision, to be honest with you. I left that day job because I needed that for my sanity. I needed that for my family. Um, I remember an evening whenever I was coming home from my job, and it was late. It was dark. I knew that, but I was really disoriented, to be honest with you, because it was one of those situations where it was the winter and it got dark at 4:30 or so, and I was like, "How late even is it?" And as I was driving home, I looked over at one of those time and temperature things at a local bank, and it said 9:35 p.m. And I just thought, what am I doing? I just started realizing the kids are in bed. Um, Sue had probably made a really good supper because she always did, and it's in the refrigerator. Now I'm gonna have to nuke it. And all of those things just hit me, and that was really kind of the thing where I realized I've got no margin in my life right now, and it is hurting our family. It's affecting our relationship, and so it wasn't the best financial decision at the time. Overall, it has been, but at the moment it wasn't. But because of that, I was able during those very formative years for our kids spend hours and hours and hours with them, and again, no regrets on that. So that's what I would just say. Having that margin, having that focus is just so important.
Yeah. He said it well.
Well said. Well said. I mean, that's a mic drop moment. I think that is, based on all the research that I've seen and done with couples, about couples, coaching couples that are entrepreneurs, whether they're in business together or not, it's that same focus. Like, if you have the focus in the same direction, you're going to figure things out, right?
Yeah.
You're
Mhm.
gonna be able to. You might not have everything, but you'll get there.
Yeah.
But it's that drive. It's when couples start off or they enter business together, and it just like the one is in one direction, one's another direction. It's a matter of time. That's gonna fall apart. It just
Mhm.
really will. So I love what you're doing. I love how you're helping people. And I know there are couples out there and business owners who are listening is going, yeah, yes, yes, yes. We need to have that. Give me a couple of ways right now. 1, 2, 3 ways that couplepreneurs, they're in business together, they're working together, they're side by side. Maybe they're not as side by side as they need to be, focus wise. Talk to us about what can they do to improve this focus. What are the first thing, the second thing, third things that they can maybe get started on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, I mean, we already mentioned that really the key is connection, and communication is the pathway towards that. So one of the things that we do, and if it's okay with you, we'd love to give this set to your audience. We have a set of what we call connect cards. And it's basically just a little card that you pull out once a day and you ask a question, and it takes less time than it takes to brush your teeth. So you brush your teeth every day. So just add this. So it's just going to add another 2 minutes to your schedule of the day, and just ask the question and take the time to look each other in the eye and answer the question for each other. That right there is going to begin to build connection, and so that's the first thing that I would say. Did you have a second thing?
So yeah, the other thing, and it would kind of go closely along with that, but that is to pray together as a couple.
Yes.
I don't have the exact statistic in front of me, but it's something like, we know that the divorce rate is really, really high, but it's something out of the number of people who get divorced, like less than 2%, I believe, will admit that they pray together, will say that they pray together on a regular basis. So it almost divorce proofs your marriage, right? And again, this is another thing, just like the connection time or connect cards. Um, it can be a little bit awkward at the beginning, but awkward is okay. And so I know that, like Sue and I, over the years, we have prayed together a lot, but we really have committed to it, I would say, in the last couple of years.
Mhm.
On, I mean, if we don't pray together at the beginning of a day, something is off,
Yeah.
something is missing.
Mhm.
And so fight through that kind of awkwardness at the beginning. And I'm primarily talking to you men out there, all right, with the connection and with the prayer time, okay? Because I know that guys, we have a tendency to kind of shy away from those type of things. They feel a bit awkward. You feel a bit off a little bit, but fight through that. And I don't know, by the fourth, fifth, sixth time, it becomes much more natural. And after a few weeks of doing it, it's going to be automatic and very easy to do. But yeah, have connection time together and pray together for sure.
Yeah. And I think a third thing that you could do right now would be set a time. We love to do it as a weekend getaway. If you can do that, awesome. If it has to be shorter than that, even if it has to be just a one day to get away from your normal space, it's got to be away from your normal space. Spend some time just sitting down and dreaming together and planning out what it is that you want to do in your business and in your life. These things begin to get your juices flowing, and they make the specific planning so much easier. But spend some time, literally just give yourselves permission to just dream anything, whatever is appealing to you right now about what you'd like to do, either with your business, with your family, where you want to be, with your spouse. What do you want your empty nest years to look like, since that's what we're facing right now? What do you want this next stage to look like? Begin to do that so that you, like, I think, I don't know what it is. I there's probably a scientific name for it, but it activates something in your mind and even in your body that just says, "Oh, now I know where we're going, and I'm creatively moving forward now." Because we've been through dry spells. We've talked about this not terribly long ago, and I said, I don't even know what I want, because I had kind of just stopped thinking too much about the future, and just beginning to talk about that again was so important. So even though it's something that we preach, we can go through dry spells too, and I think that is something that's been super important to us.
Again, well said. I love these. Connect, even if it's just for a minute or two, to talk about something different, unique. I like that. My wife and I, we will connect at the end of the day, for sure. If we don't throughout the day, we were talking about working together and being parents together. But then if you put all two of those together and you work from home and you're parenting and you're working a business, like, welcome to the reality that a lot of us are facing these days. But so we connect after dinner. We go for a walk around the block or two, depending on how much time we need away, and just talk about the day and connect. To pray together. We pray every morning. We pray every evening, and it is something that increases connection. So you mentioned that, and I've done a little research on this, and it tends to be that couples who also pray together. That's kind of the private religious activities. If they pray together, if they read and study scriptures together. That's the true variable. A lot of people like to say, well, do they go to church together? The problem with going to church together is that's that's a social event. And while that's good, and I encourage it, if they go to church together and they come home and never speak about God ever in their home, they've missed the point. The real indicator is what's happening inside. So I love that you mentioned that. And then third is, go away, get out of this space, dream together. That's it. Dr. Gottman has done research with thousands of couples and has found that when couples understand each other's dreams, that they will have a wonderful relationship as they turn and connect, right? He's all about the connection. He's all about getting couples to connect. Wonderful. I love these ideas. Thank you for sharing them here today. If couples who are out there listening, couplepreneurs, are like, yes, we need to be more side by side. We need to have better, 2-4. We need to be able to really make this business work better for us together as couples. What resources, you mentioned, some cards, but where would they go to either get those cards or to connect with you guys to help them improve on their 2-4?
Yeah. To get those Connect cards, and that will also be, they'll receive the email from us, and they could always reply to the email at that stage. But it's sidebysidebusiness.com/connect. So pretty simple.
I love it. Awesome. And then they can connect with you guys there, and they can learn more about what you're all about. So thank you for being on the show. Anything else you guys want to add before we end?
It's been such a privilege to be on here, Dr. Perry. We really appreciate it. And just the chance, we always enjoy the chance to just sit and talk about this thinking about the future and how do we, really connect well as couples in the midst of growing a business. And so we love the opportunity to get to do that with you. And then the fact that it's recorded, hopefully it will bless some other people too.
Yeah, I just want to
Oh,
encourage everybody to work on building that dream business, but make sure that you do it in a way without regret. And we think the best way to do that is side by side.
absolutely. Couldn't agree more. You guys are amazing. And you're examples of it. You're here. You are side by side talking about these concepts and coaching people. You're wonderful people. Thank you for being on the Balanced Growth Show. And if you haven't already, listeners, go get my new book, Marry and Grow Rich, where we talk about specifically being side by side on your money situation to help grow your business and keep your marriage growing as well. Thank you for this time, and we'll see you on the next episode.